Hey everyone, it's Michael Pottern here with Find My Zen, and as always, joined by Reed Callahan of Gear Sharing, and really excited to chat with you today. I think we're going to dive in a little bit around community and what that's going to look like. How can we best serve community, especially more on that charity and give back element, and excited to kind of dive into this because I think it's really poignant as we move into kind of the second phase of now supporting people as businesses do start getting moving again a little bit, and how can we actually incorporate people that do have that goodwill factor into this model now so we can actually have a little bit more supporting quality that we're intrinsically buying into.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I'm really excited to talk about this because like if there was one thing that I noticed, um, some of you all may know, like I was working for ClassPass prior to COVID, and then like now it's not so much. One of the things that I noticed was like as soon as that happened, it's like people as soon as COVID happened, everyone's at home. Things are kind of shifted, and it's like people were reaching out to people like, hey, how's it going, how can I help, what's the, what are you up to, things like that. And it just goes to show that people so much more have a relationship with like whoever that person is that is on the ground, whoever that person is that's collaborating with it. And so I'm excited to just dive in the kind of overarching theme of like community, because I've just been unbelievably just taken back by the support of the fitness and wellness community during this time.
Yeah, I mean everything from donation-based classes, sliding scale. I mean the adoption of allowing technology to facilitate that really easily, so people can Venmo, PayPal, do all this. That shifted so quickly, and I think so many people, came in with that sense of I want to do this first and foremost for my community to support them with balancing their nervous system with getting a little activity and blood flowing. I mean these things are vital as we are sequestered to our homes for most of the day, if not all. And yeah, I also think that it's been really exciting to see companies like Strengthen the City, and what they've been doing. I know that you've been also kind of intertwined with them, and how they're picking charities and actual local charities that they can actually support and do gift bags for the first 30 people to be signing up. I mean, there's so many little ways to actually get excitement and curiosity while also doing that give back factor. Tell me a little bit more of what you've been kind of seeing with that and thinking.
Yeah. Well, Strength in the City, if just kind of give a little bit of context for anybody that's not heard of them before. But if you've been in Denver in the fitness and or wellness scene for a bit, you've probably seen that they throw multiple events in Denver and San Diego and like several other states. And what's been really cool to see is, their events are usually several hundred people, a few thousand people, obviously, just seeing their response to all of this. And I mean, there's been multiple companies that I've seen that have had just a fantastic um, and admirable response to all this. And I say response versus like reacting and just throwing your hands up and saying, well, I don't know what the hell to do. They've had the opposite approach to this, because like literally it's like as soon as this happened, they're like, okay, we're still pushing forward with this event. It may or may not land, but here are some of the sub kind of goals that we have, as far as like, we know that, as you mentioned, it's like we can put together this this gift basket or whatever it might be, as kind of a donation based type of things for these different restaurants, and just finding ways to really very seamlessly like go into like, okay, we used to program our events, it was a all day event with like these different types of folks, but like how can we still incorporate like these different types of folks and still have that ability to like really lean into like supporting the restaurants or supporting a foundation that really makes a whole lot of sense through something like this. And so to see how quickly they're able to just like kind of turn that corner and still stay plugged in and still support the community has been very cool to watch for sure.
Yeah, I totally had, just actually saw something about that restaurant component. And again, how creative is that to think outside the box and how to actually support the businesses that might not always be the ones that get that initial attention and obviously are in most need at this point. And on top of that, then to make it a little bit more fun, so there's some giveaways and there's actually this little bit more of that gamification or a little bit more of that marketing component that can actually get it to be a little more viral, which I think is quite needed right now. We need to just empower people to say yes versus, oh, now most people are just in flight or fight for themselves, making sure that they can
Mm.
get through, but they still have the good heart and they know that they do want to do something. So it's about creating those opportunities for people to say yes to and give money to and support both teachers, restaurants, all, it's a win-win-win, I think, across the board. And that also leads me into the thought of how businesses, sponsorships, how brands can also be getting involved. It's not just the festival model where you were talking about earlier, or the 500 person events, or even the 50, 100 person events. We're at a micro level now, and for the foreseeable future. And it's interesting to see that now it's not just brands. We're, as Find My Zen, is talking to several bigger names that do want to support and have their products handed out and different things, more from that distribution channel model. But what I'm also seeing now, and I'm excited because I know you've been seeing some stuff as well, is around actual businesses actually getting in that game too, where it's not just, oh, hey, I'm going to give money to put my name on the golf tournament, so we can have a sign to then promote to other potential sales clients, things of that nature. I think now we're really seeing we need to support our community, because our business won't be around if the community is not really there to actually be fluid enough to be spending money. So yeah, and just it's really exciting right now.
It's super well said. And I mean, like you said, it's like if things were local before, especially in Colorado, right? Like things were local before, they're like hyper local now. And that's what I've been seeing too, is like businesses more open to newer ideas of like how they can like support like that local restaurant or fitness studio or wellness studio like in their neighborhood specifically. And the models around like how we can work together, I just noticed people, I guess the best word is, I already said it, it's just people's openness to what that can look like. And so I mean, for anybody that's listening or watching right now, I think that like if you had an idea about how to offer something, um, until you're making offers, like you don't know. But I'd say like if there's something maybe take out of this is like understanding that like what we're seeing is like how open people are to saying yes and to supporting something more local. So it never hurts to ask. And Michael, you and I both know just from being in different types of careers and roles in our life, that it's like you ask 10 people and two or three say yes, and it's like, okay, go ask 20 people, then you have like six folks that you're working with. And so I just say like I was saying, anybody that's listening or watching right now, it's just like if you have that kind of that next thing that you're like, okay, I was apprehensive about it, obviously you want to brush up against people around your space to really get some clarity on exactly what your offer is and everything. Michael and I go back and forth around kind of what that looks like all the time. But then, yeah, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to like try something new and like create a new offering for yourself for sure.
Yeah, and I would even welcome, reaching out to either one of us if you have some ideas that you want to riff on. I think that again, this is a time of co-creation, and I'm really curious to see where this all goes. We actually got a call last night from a friend in Rhode Island who's actually working with healers and wanting to support them and actually offering services as things do open back up to those people that are in need. But she reached out because we're in the virtual space. So she also has people that have the online component, but she's not set up to really do that. She's more that person to person thing. So instead of just trying to create a whole nother thing, she reached out to us and said, hey, you guys have the now online component where people can discover that. We also have a new initiative called Frontline Zen, where companies are actually donating and purchasing extra tickets for these more high-end curated events that then can be distributed to frontline workers, healthcare, anybody that's really in that need of self-care. And it just again shows me how much value there is in having the whole tide rise rather than just my little wave, because my little wave will always come back down. If the whole tide is raised, we're really at a much better place to support, to really move through this in a much faster way, being through some things in the past that have lingered for a number of years. I really do hope that we have that fluidity and generosity that can take it from I need to just look out for me to I need to look out for we. But I'm also, I know you have the gear sharing equipment, which is also another pivotal thing that I think can be brought into local neighborhoods and allow those businesses again to actually support the neighborhood, not just the city, not just the state, and get on the bandwagon of, oh, Colorado made and all that, which I love. But I also think let's actually support those people that are on our block. So how's that been working out, and where do you see that going?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I appreciate the thought for sure. Because like as you mentioned, I'm finding different ways where it's like people are able to support like that neighborhood. Obviously, with the gear sharing boxes, it's like we can team up a real estate group or corporate group with a local brand like right in that neighborhood and say, hey, like why wouldn't you use this to farm your local either specific neighborhood, or maybe it's a coupling of properties or whatever it is. It's like, why wouldn't you do that and maybe invite that brand's specific community there, invite maybe clients that you've been trying to engage and like get them into kind of one space, being able to experience it in a fun way, that's like super local and everything. And what's really exciting about that is like a lot of people are like, yeah, let's do it. Like, how do we put this together? And it's like everybody's in a little bit of this a little bit of this waiting pattern right now. I don't know if you've noticed. uh, uh, like, yeah, sounds good. Let's shoot for like the end of May, beginning of June. We'll gauge it as far as like sizes and are concerned, and like what we're really able to do. Uh, but like there's a lot of folks that are stepping up and really ready to do something, and that's really encouraging. And really just looking at like how do we focus on kind of teeing ourselves up to win May 8th or May 9th, which is my birthday, by the way, or like whatever these days are. Like how do we tee ourselves up to go, okay, cool, now we can like kind of pull the trigger and like know that like there's this next thing coming. Because like, and Michael, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. It's just like what we offer and what we help like facilitate. I feel like so it's obviously it's fitness, it's wellness, it's mindfulness, but all those are kind of like tied into each other, is what we're seeing. But like what's I think unbelievably important to remember is like people need what we're doing as far as being a whether you're a trainer, you're an instructor, you're a studio owner, you're a service provider, and not only that, you're a proactive service provider. So like people that are thinking right now like, oh, I wish I'd have gotten in shape when that I had that one call to action, or I wish I would have focused on my physical, mental, spiritual health, if way back when. Because now it's like I feel like I would be one of the susceptible ones to whatever type of illness is out there or whatever. But it's like the people can like right now. That's what I was saying. Like if you have an offer, make an offer. It's like people need like a call to action, because they in the back of their minds know like what you all do and what you all provide is the most important thing that they can be doing for themselves, for their immune systems, for their inflammation, for their health, whatever it might be. And so I went on a bit of a tangent there, but I think that it
No.
all makes sense in kind of the same vein of like, um, okay, while people are open to helping facilitate these things, it's like I just want to voice how important it is, like what each and every one of you all do, because it's like people need it now more than ever.
Well, and I'm just going to dovetail that, and I don't think it was too much of a tangent. And I think that also sets us up to introduce what we'll be talking about next week. But I do want to, also just dovetail that with the idea that everybody does have their own voice. Because I also see people that are like, oh, well, that's already being done out there right now. I just saw somebody else do a 3-day challenge or a 10-day challenge or whatever that is. That they've been maybe kind of getting a little excited about and haven't maybe voiced it yet. We all have our own voice, and I think that as a consumer myself as well, and a student always, that there are different people that will actually inspire me, whether it's from their own story of how they just got through something, or whether it's more on the aspirational side of what that can lead me to. I just think that we need to make sure that we are being vocal, and as you said, just get it out there. And I think that initial step is 80% of it, and then you just see where it's takes you. But if you don't do it, you haven't even left the starting gate, even if you've thought about it and wrote about it and done all the other things. So I really do value that statement and that call to action. And I do, we're trying to keep these nice and short and compact. Next week, we will get more into that community side and what that new model might look like. Whether the students are still going to be coming in and just there 100% or all the time, or what is that new hybrid model going to look like? How can we see community grow again in that way of both supporting, but also the way that the business side will probably look a little bit more. Any other final thoughts from you, Reed?
Just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying. Exactly that. So what it looks like as far as our existing communities, how those things have shifted, how buying behavior has shifted, as
Mhm.
far as like what things. I'm really curious to like pull everybody in on this on this conversation and just hear all the perspectives. Like, what are you noticing that is working well? What things do you see shifting and changing and all of that? So super excited for next week's talk. And then anybody that has like any feedback on that kind of leading up to that, feel free to drop either of us a line and let us know, because it's definitely a collective conversation between everybody.
Perfect. Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's just going to be really interesting. There's so many micro models coming out of just ways to do this a little bit differently and really ease into this next period with both uncertainty and a little foresightedness. So I really appreciate anybody else that wants to join in that conversation. We're also looking at how to interweave that into these conversations just so we can get those extra voices and really make this a meaningful thing that really does create a well-rounded conversation so we can fully explore and ideate on how to go through this and find our path forward. Uh, Love you, Reed, and looking forward to seeing you next week.
Hey, love you, brother. See you soon.